Hello, coming to you from the bargain city of board gaming, Omaha, Nebraska. Welcome to the Out of the Dust podcast. I'm your host, Bryce. Tied in with the popular recurring Out of the Dust Geek list on Board Game Geek, the Out of the Dust podcast is a bi-weekly podcast that is focused on re-exploring games we play that we hadn't previously played in a year or more. Why did the game get dusty? Why did you decide to dust it off? How does the game compare to how you remembered it? Are you likely to play it more often in the future? These are the questions that we're interested in examining on Out of the Dust. This week on the podcast, episode 56. On the Out of the Dust segment, I'll bring Amerigo out of the dust, and a contributor will dust off both Jamaica and Konig Siam. On the reaction segment, I continue my discussion of the top 10 Geekbuzz games from Essen Spiel. On the What I've Been Playing segment, I review Rome. On the Obscure Bryce game segment, I review the Godzilla Card Game. And we wrap up the episode by continuing my top 5 of 2009 countdown with number 2 on the list. I had a chance to bring Amerigo out of the dust recently. Amerigo is a 2013 Steffenfeld exploration and building game from publisher Queen. I last played it 3 years and 4 days ago at one of my Feld Friday marathons at NewtCon. NewtCon is one of Omaha's local conventions, and I always kick off the convention with a marathon of Steffenfeld games on Friday evening. The Feld Friday marathon was the occasion of bringing Amerigo out of the dust as well. I was really surprised at how dusty this one actually was. It's not among my top choices for a Feld game, but it's still a Feld game, which makes it better than most. The action selection mechanism in Amerigo was certainly a unique one, and trying to figure out how to use it more effectively than my opponents is always an engaging and interesting efficiency puzzle. And it was a good choice for the convention because the action cube tower and colorful board create attractive table presence. The group that signed up for the game had a fun time with it, and the session kindled a desire to play the game again soon, and not let it get so dusty again. I don't think I've tried out the Queenies for this game, and I wouldn't mind doing so sooner rather than later. Let's see what a contributor brought out of the dust. David Fox, username Quaid, brought a couple of fun games out of the dust recently. First up was Jamaica, the modern classic pirate-themed racing game published in 2007 by publisher GameWorks, and designers Malcolm Braff, Bruno Cathala, and Sebastian Pochon. David last played it 2 years, 7 months, and 2 days ago, and currently rates it a 6 out of 10. He writes, Jamaica is an okay race game that often has both a runaway leader and a drop-away loser. The option to load up on gold becomes a necessary one if you're too far behind to compensate for board scoring, but often you just lose the cash in a fight anyway. We have a house rule, having had too many instances of the gold card being used after a reshuffle for easy cash, that it is a play once card, i.e. not reshuffled if used. It always seemed the winner was the one lucky enough to draw it early. I wish they'd made a much bigger deck, to be honest. Next up was Konig Siam and its re-implementation, The King is Dead, which David last played 1 year, 1 month, and 29 days ago, and currently rates a 10 out of 10. Konig Siam was originally published in 2007 by publisher Histogame. David writes, my favorite design, twice on the same night, simultaneously. I love this lead mean area control game of 8 cards, 8 turns, 8 provinces to contest. We had 5 players, so I played in a 3-player The King is Dead and officiated a 2-player Konig Siam with 1 player who just did not grok it. Interestingly, despite my attention being so divided, I pulled out a win, as the last 3 rounds of my game became a 2-player affair. Strategy-wise, that suits my play of this design. Make sure you're still in it with some options as the game turns toward home, then the myriad possibilities thin out and you can start to see a path to victory. I'm sure better players have a plan from the beginning, but mine in this play, go red because no one had any, was going badly, so I jumped ship to yellow, which had won a couple of early territories. The 3rd player had already pushed for Saxon, so that meant blocking blue from more success. Anyway, it worked, and the fact I'm frothing about the game 2 weeks later is a testament to how much this design, in either version, rocks. Thanks for the contributions, David. I agree wholeheartedly about Konig Siam being an amazing game. It's a wholly unique experience unlike anything else out there. Its unusual 3-player only player count makes it challenging to get to the table sometimes, but it's a title I highly recommend everyone try at least once if the situation happens to present itself. Reaction segment time. Last week on the reaction segment, I started a rundown of the top 10 games from the BGG Geekbuzz list from Essen Spiel. I gave some brief thoughts on each one. I hit number 10 through number 6 last week, and I'll go number 5 through number 1 this week. Number 5 was It's a Wonderful World, a sci-fi themed card drafting and engine building game from publisher La Boîte de Jeux and designer Frédéric Girard. I don't know much about this one. I'm not familiar with this publisher or designer, and the art looks generic. I see some potential in the mechanics, and I like that the game has a solo mode, but that's not enough for me to add the game to my wish list at the moment. I'll wait to continue to see if this game continues to get buzz and wait for some reviews, too, before making further judgment. Number 4 was Barrage, the science-themed game from Cranio Creations and designers Tommaso Battista and Simone Luciani. I'm interested in this game, but after the troubled Kickstarter, I want to wait and see how things shake out. Cranio has already launched a Kickstarter for an expansion and upgraded components to fulfill their previously broken promises. I'll probably wait until complete copies are on the market before picking it up myself, but was happy to play it in the meantime, which I had a chance to do a couple of weeks ago during a demo at Spiel. I was quite impressed with the game. It was a real brain burner, but I had a really fun time trying to figure out an effective efficiency puzzle that led to success in the end. Number 3 was Trismegistus, the ultimate formula, a heavy dice drafting alchemy-themed game from publisher Board and Dice and rookie designer Federico Pierlorenzi and non-rookie designer Daniel Tascini of Marco Polo and Teotihuacan fame. This is another one that wasn't on my radar at all because the theme doesn't grab me, but I'm curious enough to give it a try after seeing it on this list. I do have concern that it may be heavier than is good for it for a dice drafting game, though. Number 2 was Aquatica, a nautical-themed engine-building game from publisher Cosmodrome and rookie designer Ivan Tuzovsky. This is another publisher-designer combo that I'm not familiar with, but besides a beautiful-looking production, I'm not sure what the buzz is all about. I'm skeptical this might be a shallow, nice-looking game only, so it's a wait-and-see game for me, but then again, I don't see any reason not to give it a try should the opportunity present itself. And the number 1 game on the Geekbuzz list at Essen was The Magnificent, a magic-themed dice drafting and tile placement game from publisher Aporta Games and designers Elif Svensson and Christian Mundsnatsby, the creative team behind the recent Santa Maria. This one wasn't on my radar before the convention either, but it looks like a solid game in all respects, and since I haven't been disappointed by a polyomino-style tile-laying game just yet, it goes on my wish list, though at an average priority because on appearance it doesn't stand out from the crowd for me. So there we go, the second half of the top 10 Geekbuzz list from Essen. Again, some attractive titles and some I'm not sure about. We'll see if these games warrant the buzz that they are getting or not as time goes forward. But for now, I don't think I'm quite as excited about the top half of this list as I was about the bottom half from last week. This week on the What I've Been Playing segment, I'm going to tell you about Rome, the new game from Renaissance man Ryan Lockett set in his above and below world of Arzium. Ryan Lockett games always attract my attention. In fact, his 8-Minute Empire was the first ever Kickstarter I ever backed. Unless I've forgotten about a title, Ryan Lockett hasn't released a small box game since the 8-Minute Empire sequel Lost Legends, so I was particularly intrigued by his return to the form with Rome. Naturally, I went in for the deluxe edition with the nice metal frog coins. The really weird plot of this one has the land suffering under a spell of sleeping sickness, and it's up to the players to wander the land, awakening its inhabitants. Here's how it works. The double-sided cards in this game feature a 2x3 grid on one side, and an inhabitant and pattern on the other. A 2x3 grid of these cards compose the common play area. Players take turns using the patterns on the characters they've awakened to place Explorer markers on the cards in the play area. When an individual card has been completely filled up with Explorer cubes, the player who has the most Explorer cubes on the card awakens the inhabitant on the other side. It can now use their pattern to help place more Explorer cubes and awaken other inhabitants. When a player has accumulated 10 cards, everyone tallies the points on the inhabitants they have awakened and the special ability artifact cards they purchased by playing Explorer cubes on top of coin spots. The player with the most points wins, of course! It's a pretty straightforward game and probably the easiest Ryan Lockett game to get into since 8-Minute Empire. But there is depth and addicting gameplay beneath the accessible mechanics. Timing is important in the game as players weigh which characters to use when and where and what to spend their limited coins on. Do they use a pattern to get coins or try to get majority on an inhabitant and awaken them? Do they use their coins for artifact cards or bring into play bonus exploration cubes? Creating a tableau of artifact abilities and patterns that work well together is an engaging and rewarding puzzle. I found myself quite enchanted by the game and thinking about it after finishing it. Its portability means it will wind up in my game bag to show others for the foreseeable future as well. Obscure Bryce Game segment time. This week on the segment, I'm going to tell you about the Godzilla Card Game, the latest game from publisher Bandai to use their Chrono Clash turn order system. The game is by designer Ryan Miller, a fairly prolific, though little-known designer who has been around for a while and seems to specialize in working in already established systems. He is one of several designers credited in Betrayal Legacy, for instance. In any event, in the Godzilla Card Game, players take control of a deck of Godzilla Kaiju and attempt to destroy their opponent by eliminating all 5 cards in their defense stack. The box says 2 to 4 players, but I recommend ignoring that and just treating this as a 2-player only game. The game was not on my radar at all, and in fact I was completely unaware of its existence until I saw it for sale at a local con a couple of months ago. I thought, a Godzilla card game. That looks cool. I had some con credit to blow and my son is a big Godzilla fan, so I decided to take a chance on it. And I'm glad I did. Here's how it works. Players take control of one of the 4 monster decks that come included in the box, or they can use some deck building instructions to construct their own. While a huge selection of Godzilla Universe Kaiju are represented in the game, the 4 pre-constructed decks are themed around some of the most popular. There's a Vintage Godzilla deck, a Mothra deck, a Mecha Godzilla deck, and a King Ghidorah deck. At the beginning of the game, 5 of the cards from the player's deck are randomly selected to form a player's defense stack. Using a hand of 6 cards, players will bring into play new monsters, play single-use events, go on quests, and attack their opponent. Bringing cards into play, or playing cards, has an energy cost associated with it that is tracked on a shared energy track divided equally between the 2 players. As soon as the energy marker passes into opponent territory, it's their turn, and they get to use as much energy as was given them. So, playing a small monster may only grant their opponent a short turn, while playing a huge, powerful monster may enable their opponent to have a more dramatic turn. There are also oversized high-level monster cards in the game, which can only be drawn through certain icons triggering, and are brought into play by sacrificing cards in play rather than paying energy. Attacking and questing exhausts a monster, rotating them sideways. A player is only allowed to attack an opponent's exhausted monster or their defense stack. Many cards have a line of icons that trigger when it is revealed as a defense stack card, or a card stacked on a questing monster. These icons will impede the opponent or help their owner. A monster revealed as a defense or stacked quest card will compare its strength to the attacker and will defeat it if its strength is greater. In any event, though, a revealed defense or stacked quest card is always discarded after resolution. If a questing monster is not attacked by their opponent, then at the beginning of the player's next turn, when their cards are fresh, the stacked quest card becomes a quest point. Accumulating 5 of these results in instant victory, and attacking an opponent's empty defense stack also results in instant victory. Sometimes there is not much to fight in games like this, but repeated plays have revealed a lot of depth to Bandai's Chrono Clash system, which appear to be a natural fit for the Godzilla IP. There's a lot of tactical decision-making opportunity in deciding which monsters to bring out to win, how much energy to allow an opponent to use as a result, which cards to use as questing cards and when to attack an exhausted monster or defense stack. The oversized high-level monsters are tons of fun too and represent dramatic moments in the game when they enter play and do their thing. I've been quite impressed with the game. Unfortunately, it appears that Bandai has not promoted this game at all, either leading up to its recent release or since. The game came out obscure and it appears destined to remain that way. Bandai claims that the Godzilla card game is going to be treated like a living card game with additional content, presumably in the form of even more monsters to deck build with, being released periodically. Maybe this approach will help raise awareness for the game, though I can't help but be concerned the company's fly-under-the-radar approach will result in the game never receiving any additional content. But we shall see. In the meantime, I've already got a lot of enjoyment from the game and expect to get more. My son Luke is a natural at the game and has won all but one of our games together. He gave me a very amusing, "Good job finally winning, Daddy," line afterwards our most recent play.